I'm Julia Hull, PhD candidate in biology and ecology. I'm the host of the new podcast, What the Fuck Biology? I had to ask myself, why? Why do you need to give yourself yet another thing to do? Why do you need to make a podcast? And why this podcast? After some soul searching, I answered myself, and I thought it would be worth sharing that answer with all of you potential listeners. When I was a kid, my family would camp at this campground in southern Utah 2 or 3 times a year. We called it Red Rocks, even though that's not its real name. We call it Red Rocks because of the sandstone formation. There's a creek that runs out of a slot canyon and through the campground, eventually draining into a reservoir. There are cottonwoods and willows near the creek, dinosaur footprints on the cliff, and a sandy wash that's perfect for making dope-ass sandcastles. The sandstone cliffs are perfect for a kid to scramble around on, get lost, and maybe even seriously injured. Therefore, I loved that place. I still love that place. I still go camping there. Red Rocks is steeped in my family history. My grandfather discovered Red Rocks in the Christopher Columbus sense of the word. Lots of people knew it was there. He stumbled across it when my dad was 11 years old. My dad spent a lot of time there when he was a kid. He has stories of adventures when he was young. I spent a lot of time there, and I have stories of adventures when I was young. My kids spend a lot of time there, and they have stories of their adventures. We've had family reunions at this campground, Thanksgiving dinners, all sorts of good times. One time about 10 years ago, I bumped into my sister there. Neither of us knew that the other one was going to be there that weekend, but just bam, there's my sister. I wasn't even surprised. The most influential times of my young life happened at that campground. At one of our family reunions, my cousin dropped a brand new flashlight down the outhouse. Her dad, who married into the family, was not pleased about this situation, and they left the first thing the next morning. I don't think they ever went camping again. But, more importantly, my grandfather, who worked for the Bureau of Land Management, would take us kids on hikes and point out all the cool as hell nature shit. The first scientific plant name I learned was Populus Fremontii, or Fremont cottonwood. Now I study cottonwood ecology for my PhD research. My grandpa would ask us, "What is that plant?" And we'd answer, "Yucca!" And then he'd ask, "What is that plant?" And we'd answer, "Agave!" What's cool as hell is that those same individual agaves and yuccas are still there. 20 years after my grandpa died, those individuals are still there, and I point them out and ask my kids, "What plant is that?" And they answer, "Yucca, agave." I 100% credit Red Rocks for me becoming a biologist. Red Rocks is where I fell in love with science. That's where I grew to appreciate the natural world. That's where I began to understand the weird-ass shit that is geology, biology, and ecology. Every time I hike into that slot canyon at Red Rocks, I'm transported back to being a little girl and being quizzed on plants and animal tracks. I'm at my grandfather's knee full of wide-eyed wonder at this place where I get to live and breathe and hear and smell. Those were the best times of my childhood. And that's what I want to emulate with this podcast. With my guests, I want to point out that weird shit that is so awesome if we just stop for a minute to look at it, pick it up, and listen to its story. So, I hope you enjoy listening to What the Fuck Biology as much as I have enjoyed creating it. Join experts and me every 2 weeks for a deep dive into some of the strangest ecosystem and aspects of biology. And get ready to ask, what the fuck biology?